Hi, welcome back to your second SAT reading and writing lesson in the 5-week study plan. We will continue learning another technique to solve the words in context question. If you have finished the first lessons and have done the quiz and homework, this lesson will complete your stack to tackle any words in context question, even the hardest one. The second technique you will learn in today's lesson is the plus-minus indicator, or while positive, negative, or support, contrast, they all mean the same. So call it whatever you like. The idea of this technique also starts with, first, divide the text into two parts. The pro tips here is, most of the time, if you decide to use this technique, you only need the sentence that contains the blank. So just divide the sentence into two parts. How do you do this? There are 3 levels to divide the text. And yes, you can apply the same in-depth technique for the first strategy to divide the two parallel universes too. Level 1, using punctuation. So in this text, we can use the comma as indicator to divide the first sentence into 2 parts. This is the quickest way. However, it can also easily be incorrect, which makes your analysis later confusing. So, level 2, we can use grammar rule. We separate between 2 subject and verb clauses. Here, the first subject is she, and its responsive verb is doesn't have. Then the second subject is she, and its verb is the missing word. So, we can divide these 2 subject-verb clauses here at the comma. Notice that we don't count former astronaut Alan O here as the first subject, nor says as the first verb, because this clause is not fully complete. This is a more robust way to divide the 2 parts, either within a sentence or within a paragraph. But of course, it will cost you more time and require you to have a very strong foundation in grammar. But don't worry, with the 3 grammar lessons in the Take5SAT study plan, you will be very confident with your grammar. And for level 3, this is the most advanced level. We will divide the 2 parts based on the 2 objects of comparison. We will take a look at the example for this later in the lesson. Let's write down an equation here where the left side is going to be the first part and the right side is the second part that we just divided. Second, find a plus-minus indicator, which is usually in the form of a conjunction, like although, right here, indicating a contrast relationship between the 2 parts. We note a negative sign indicating the contrast of this indicator on the left-hand side because it belongs to the first part of the sentence. However, a plus-minus indicator can also be a literal negative expression, like doesn't here. So if you don't find all of the plus-minus indicators, you can make mistake with this technique. So, note another negative sign here and connect them with a multiplication because mathematically and grammatically speaking, the 2 signs are in fact affecting each other. Third, we find the DBR, or descriptive but reversible indicator in either side. What does this mean? It means that we are looking for descriptions that we can either find a synonym to support or agree with, or an antonym to contrast or disagree with. For example, a DBR can be rich because a synonym can be wealthy and the antonym can be poor. Let's take a look on either side of this equation. We see that a DBR here can be definite because a synonym can be clear and the antonym can be indefinite or undefined or vague. Let's assign a plus or minus indicator. Up to you. No need to think that the word has a positive or negative meaning to assign. Just assign whatever you feel like. Let's say we define this as a plus sign. Circle it so we can distinguish with the signs in the second step. Fourth, we now assign a question mark to represent the blank. We now have the full equation minus multiply positive equal a question mark. We can mathematically solve the left hand side to be minus multiply minus is a plus or positive, then multiply another positive will be a positive. So we see that the question mark has to equal a positive indicator or has the same meaning with the DBR definite here. So we need to find something that shows clear. Finally, go through all the answers together to see which one has the closest meaning to clear. It has to be speculates because you only hypothesize or make a guess or speculate about something that you are kind of clear about. Doubt is a tempting answer. However, you only doubt something that you are not sure or unclear about whether or not it is inaccurate. So you have to be very good with nuances of words to successfully apply this technique. Of course, you can still use the parallel universe technique to solve it. Let's try to solve it here just to revise lesson 1. We first divide the two universes with the period, and we see the pronouns this indicates that this conjecture has been previously mentioned. We do not see any similar expression in the first sentence, so it has to be the blank here. So we are looking for the word that means conjecture. Of all answers, speculates is the closest. Conjecture is usually used in academic theories, meaning an opinion or conclusion formed on the basis of incomplete information or a guess. So again, you see that the DSAT always gives you more than necessary clues for you to approach in different ways. So don't be afraid to apply both ways to double check your answers because no matter what approach you do, the answer has to be the same. Let's apply the plus minus indicator technique here again. First, divide the sentence into two parts at the comma here. Second, find the plus minus indicator, which can either be a conjunction or a positive negative expression. We see that given is a supporting indicator. It is similar to because. So we assign a plus sign here. Carefully look at this. It's not surprising phrase. This is also a supporting indicator. You agree with it technically, so that's why it's not surprising. Put a plus sign on the right side of the equation as well. Lastly, the word like is a tricky contrast indicator here. This indicates a flip. Whatever goes after this means you don't have it. So put a negative sign here. Again, carefully scan through both sides for all of plus minus indicators before moving on to the next step. Third, the DBR here is impossible. Let's assign a negative sign here for fun. Again, it's not important. As long as you remember that if the question mark turns out to be negative, it means the same thing as impossible. So like impractical or irrational. But if the question mark turns out to be positive, it has to be something opposite to impossible, like feasible or attainable. Then finish the equation expression with a question mark to represent the blank. We now have plus multiply minus equal plus multiply minus multiply question mark. With some manipulation, we can see that the left hand side is a negative and the right hand side is a negative multiply a question mark. So the question mark has to be positive. So we are looking for something opposite to impossible, something plausible or something easy. The closest to that is straightforward, which means easy to understand. Don't hesitate to pause and try to solve this question using the parallel universe technique to check if you have the same answer. Of course, the more advanced questions would require paraphrasing in order to find the DBR, just like how you have to paraphrase to find the exact parallel mirror. For the plus minus technique, we only care about the second sentence for now, meaning the separation of the equation is here at the comma. On the left side, we have because as the supporting indicator, note a plus sign. Then the blank is just a question mark. On the right hand side, it is trickier to quickly scan for a DBR, but pay attention to the adverb to describe intensity because usually it goes with the DBR. Only after, so a long overland journey has to be the DBR. This basically means very far away. Great, assign whatever sign you feel like. Let's go with the negative here. Then our complete equation shows that plus multiply question mark equals negative. So the question mark has to also be negative or a synonym with far away. Answer peripheral is the closest. It means marginal or at the edge of something. Pay attention to the double minus indicators like the one right here. We divide two sides of the equation here at the colon and we see don't lose as a negative expression, so it has to be the minus indicator. However, very carefully see that if A doesn't lose B, it means A still has B. So in fact, there is no contrast at all. Be careful with this. So the sign has to be a plus. Then we complete the equation by finding the DBR, which is same pleasant musical quality. You need to quickly be able to paraphrase this to be a DBR like nice to listen to, then assign, let's say, a positive here. And check that the opposite of it means hard to listen to or just shit music. We saw this equation of plus multiply question mark equals positive, so the question mark also means nice to listen to. The only fitting answer would have to be melodic. Let's see how this applies in a fiction excerpt. You can see how this is a very powerful strategy, especially with this type of text and also in a more advanced question like this one. It's important to notice how the sentence we want to focus on analyzing is this part here. Objects whose light often had been emitted before any of the three viewers had been born, all the way to only now reaching Earth. The trickiest part is probably to divide the two parts here. And for this one, it is not particularly easy with just punctuation or even grammar. We will hence use a third level, dividing based on two objects in comparison here. Here, we are comparing between the viewers and objects with light, or the stars. We make this guess from knowing that they are looking at them on the sky with a telescope. But this doesn't matter. Let's just put these two sides of comparison here. Next, we list down all characters that we can find of each side. We see that the stars have light emitted before any of these had been born. This is the DBR and also the plus minus indicator at once. We know that this means the stars were born way earlier than the viewers. So we can see that the DBR describes their age or how long they have existed. And the two objects here are contrast. The stars are old and the viewers are young. Assign the minus indicator here between the two sides. So we see that any characters used to describe one side means the opposite for the other. So if reaching Earth is a characteristic of the stars, it mirrors the opposite of the viewers. It is safe to say that the viewers' characteristic with Earth is probably something like they are on the Earth. So obviously the stars are not, or they have to be arriving at. This gives you a foolproof answer, even though the literal synonym of the word also means arriving. But as we discussed in the previous lesson, using synonyms only is a trap that the DSAT designs for you. Let's do the same with this example. We also see that there are two characters in comparison here, which are John and Maddie, his mother. We see that John wants to reconcile with his mother, which is the question mark here, but it's a difficult task. This is a minus indicator, meaning he hasn't done it yet. On the other hand, Maddie finds her son's desires were incomprehensible. This is the DBR we need, meaning she can't understand her son. We can put a negative sign here on the right hand side or the mom side. So we see that question mark multiply minus equals negative. So question mark is a positive or opposite to incomprehensible. So we are looking for something that shows understandable. The only answer that match is get his mother to accept or to understand. You can see how this advanced technique can save you a lot of time in finding correct answer with very high accuracy as well. Sometimes you need to combine two techniques together to find the answer. Like in this example, if we divided two parts at the period, we see mirror references of timeless work for exhibition and seen in the Mets, and periodically produce new style for the public to buy with purchase through online boutique. These are all characteristics of two objects of comparison, fine art and fashion. However, the two parts of this text has some contrasting indicators that we can look at, like the word rarely, and challenge this view here. Obviously, this view indicates the contrasting characteristics of fashion and fine art, which is portrayed by the term rarely something here. So on the left-hand side, we see rarely as the contrasting minus indicator, multiply a question mark, equals the right-hand side with challenges as negative indicator, and the DBR here is its entire description, which means that this artist's work is both fine art and fashion combined. Let's assign a positive indicator here. So solving this gives you the question mark has to be positive as well, or the same meaning with both fashion and fine art. So the answer has to be intersect. So now you can see how each technique is very helpful in guiding you to find the correct answer in the words in context question. And combining two techniques with more advanced ways of dividing the two parts can help you solve even the most advanced question in the DSAT.